Hi everybody, good evening again. Just a reminder that this is supposed to be a very interactive session, right? So if you have any challenges, don't swallow it up. If you need to ask questions, feel free to prompt and we would explain. You could also refer back to the videos where you do not understand and make references. And when you don't further understand, feel free to reach out to me and we'll look at this together. Okay, so 4 people submitted the assessments last week. I mean, for the last class. Well done. You all did great jobs. That was Taiwo, Taiwo Isaac, Daniel Mary, Cecilia, and Sean. And you all did well. I mean, I was particularly impressed with some of you. I think some of you that did it your own way. Yeah, and you derived the same answers. Well done. So, I'm open to questions so far. Did we have challenges in revisiting? By the way, before then, I don't know how many of you have read this book by Brian Tracy. It's That Frog. Yeah, where it's premises from a Chinese adage that says when you have to eat a big ugly frog every day, it's gonna be the first thing you'll do, knowing that the rest of your days is just gonna go all right. So applying it to this case, I think yes, the whole I know the whole formulas and all functions, ifs, multiple criteria and all. The referencing for what to lock, what not to lock may have been challenged, but revisit it, take a break, look at the formulas, make sense out of it, ask questions, and yeah, I'm sure you'll get a grasp on it. And yeah, well done. Okay, Mr. James, submissions were to be sent to the email address teamtechng@gmail.com. Yeah, I stated. Okay, so let's just begin. I want to know if there are questions before I start. So far, based on where on these ifs, the sum ifs and the count ifs and the others. Oh, a hand is up. Daniel Mary. Okay, please talk to me.
Good evening.
Good evening. Well done.
Yeah, please, I want to ask at what point do the count if function comes in any question?
Okay. Um, very good question. Yeah. So we're going to look at examples of count ifs today. But for if we look at our sales records here, right? Ultimately, it depends on the questions, and mostly counting. When you're talking of count ifs, using the count function would mostly require the number of cells to count, require you to count a number of cells where a particular criteria occurs, right? So say for this priority now, this other priority, we want to count, okay, we're going to do count if just to show you, and then we're going to do count ifs together. So let's try it out now. Um, so this is hands-on. It's better shown than explained. Well, when we do the both. So I'll just copy this colon, other priority. I've opened a new tab. Okay. And yeah, that's not gonna work. Control C and maybe come here, Control V, and then I go to data, I remove duplicates. So we have four other priorities. HCLM. So I'll show you, oops, this is small. Okay, I'll show you, yes, done. Thank you. I'll show you the count if and the count if, count if, count if. Okay, so count if comes in when we want to count the number of times there is an occurrence, right? Why sum if comes in when you have numerical values and you want to sum them up. The counting has to do with the number of rows. So say we want to count the number of times HCLM appears in this sheet on this row. Okay, so I come here and I do the count if equal the count if, oops, for the count if now. The first criteria is the range. The first, what do you call it? Parameter is the range. So the range is this colon E. I put my comma, and the next is the criteria. The criteria, I go back to my new sheet, and the criteria is H. I close the bracket and hit the enter button. 30. So I just counted how many times H occurs, right? And I drag it down and it gives me, dragging down relative referencing applies to each of the rows, and it gives me the count of all that. Okay. Now, of course, so we know count if has to do with a single criteria, right? Okay. Say we want to do a more, I'm sure we're all clear with this. Okay, let me do one more example with the item types. So I come to item types, I copy this and I go to my new sheet. Okay, let me do it this way. Control V, go to data and I remove duplicates. Okay, this is for item types. And I want to count the number of times each of these items appear on my data in this column. Okay. Count if is going to be count if. Okay, count if. I can put an equal to sign. It's going to give me error. Okay. Yeah, count if the range is item types, and then the next is the criteria. Go back to our sheet and baby food. Bracket close, enter 7. So this is for COUNTIF. It gives me, it's a single criteria um, parameter, right? So range, the range you want to count, and then the criteria. So I'm sure we are good with that. Now let's move to count ifs. I'll take this other priority. I'll add an S here. So when you're dealing with count ifs, like I said, the ifs has to do with multiple criterias. Okay, so for other priority, let's do H and C. For example, C and M. Yeah. So this is just on a basic, then we'll go more practical. So if you want to count um, multiple criterias, uh, how do I do this? No, sorry. Okay, this could actually, no, this is not gonna work. Forgive me. Um, this is not gonna work. Um, so count ifs. Let's say we want to count how many. Remember, every entry here, every entry here is an order, right? There's a colon for order ID. So I don't know. I'm sure a lot of us shop online, or you go to buy stuff. When you shop online, you could have multiple items in your shopping cart, right? Um, so let's say, so anyway, each of the columns here, each of the rows here, rather, represents an order, and they all have unique order IDs, right? They all have unique order IDs. Yeah. So let's say we want to know the number of orders that were baby food, right? That were baby food and priority H. Number of orders, baby foods, and priority H. So the first one is, and I'm trying to think of what to title this. Let me just call it task. So I'll call this baby food, then plus H. That's for the priority. So if we use COUNTIFS, the first thing you see is criteria range, And the next thing you see is the criteria range one. That's the range of the first criteria. And then the second thing is the criteria one. That's the first criteria. So our first criteria is going to be baby food. Our second criteria is going to be H. Baby food is in item type and H is in priority, other priority, right? So the first thing, criteria range for baby food, we go to our sales record and we put this, right? And I think at this point, when you're working with it's just safe to fix, to use the absolute referencing to lock your distance. Remember, using it is using the, to lock it, to use the F4 function F4 button on your keyboard, or you put a dollar sign in front of both the two C's. It's easier to use the F4 button anyway. So criteria range one is the item type, and then the criteria, the first criteria is what, baby food. So I'm just gonna put it in quotes, double quotes. Remember, when you're putting a text or a non-numerical, that's items that are not numbers in your formula, you have to put them in quotes. And also remember that if you're typing them, they have to be exactly as it is in the criteria range. So I put baby food in quotes, in double quotes. So that's my criteria one. So we've put our criteria range one, which is the colon with item type, and then our criteria range one, our criteria one rather, is baby food. So we put a comma. Now the second criteria is order priority H, right? So next thing we do is the criteria range 2. For second criteria, I click on the colon and I F4 it to lock it on that colon, and I put a comma, and the next is the criteria 2, which is H. So I put it in double quotes, I close the brackets, and I hit the enter button. So we have 3. So what this is telling us is that in our data, we have 3 orders that were baby food and in other priority H. Let us check to see how true it is. I put a filter on this. I taught us how to put filters, right? Control Shift L, Control plus Shift and letter L, or you just go to data and click on filter. I put a filter and I want to filter on this column baby foods. So just baby foods. I select only baby foods. I unfilter the rest. Okay, baby foods. And I go to other priority and I filter for only H. I unfilter the rest. You see? 1, 2, 3. So if we go to our data, we see that our COUNTIFS works. Okay, was that clear? Was that clear? Because you're about to give me answers for cereal plus L and fruits plus M. Okay, over to you. I await your answers. Okay, I will come again. Oh, Victor says it wasn't clear. And then, okay, I'll go again. Okay, so for count ifs, we have this column for baby food, right? So rather for item type, where you have baby food, cereals, different item types. And then we have this colon for other priority, whatever it means, like the priority of the order, which is coded as H or C or L or M. Now we want to know, we ask ourselves, how many products, rather, yeah, how many items? I want a count of how many orders were in item type, rather, how many orders were baby food and other priority H. That's basic. How do I put this? Yeah. How many others were baby foods, and that's how many rows had baby food and other priority H. So basically, count if there are two criteria. You know, we're talking of multiple criteria for using the ifs. So it's count if, or rather, let me rephrase it. So if a row has baby food and has other priority H, give me the count for all this data, right? So go through this colon C and colon E and check for anyone that has baby food and other priority H and count, give me the number of these items. Um, yeah. So the first condition is baby food and other priority H. So we use our count ifs. Ifs because it's more than one criteria. If we're looking for just baby food, like we're looking for here, we'll just use if without ifs. But then since we're working with multiple criterias, here we go. So count ifs, the first item is the criteria range. So criteria range for baby food is this item type. I lock it with F4 and I put a comma. The next thing is the criteria. That's what are we looking for in this criteria range, and that's baby food. We put our double quotes, right? I hope you all can see this. I can't zoom in. I know how to do that. And then we put baby food exactly how it is here. CBABY space FOD, yeah, in double quotes. That's our criteria range 1 and criteria 1. We put a comma. The next thing is the criteria range 2. What was our second criteria? Other priority H, right? So criteria range 2 is other priority. We lock it and put a comma. The next is the criteria 2. What are we looking for in this criteria 2 range, other priority, which is other priority H. So we put H in our double quotes. We are putting them in double quotes because they are not numbers, they are text. So we put them in strings. That's what it's called. And we close our brackets. We've met our two criterias. There can be multiple, we can keep adding and adding and adding. In fact, after this, we're going to add other stuff. Yeah. So I hit enter and it gives me 3. This one, you're not dragging down, of course, because I mean, it's not linked to this. It's not linked to these tables. If I want to link it, I could just maybe add another column here and do. Okay, should we try that? Now I want you to understand this first, then maybe I would try that out. Yeah. So did we get this? Did we get it now? Oh, I see people. Mr. Chibueze has started giving answers already. Okay, Tyrell got it. Awesome. So try it out. Let me know if you got the gist. And if you got the gist, let's do for cereal and fruits. Cereal and L, fruits and M. Give me your answers, then we try it out. Mr. Chibueze says 0 for the cereal and L. So I have a witness in the house. Inca. Okay, so we have a 0 for cereal and fruits too. Okay, let's try it out together and see. Um, okay, for the count if criteria range is is and in quotes cereal and second criteria range this and criteria is L bracket close 0. Yay, that's correct. Okay, I'm just gonna copy this formula and put it here and change this to fruits and change this to M. Voila, we have two since they're the same range and color. Okay, let's try something else now. How about if we add more
Mr.
yeah,
Mr. Jesam,
sir?
sorry, Chibueze on the line, sir.
Okay.
Must you have to lock this cell? Must the cell be locked? Can we do it without locking?
Yeah, so for this,
Just
yeah,
yes.
good question. Yes. You can do without locking for this, right? You can do without locking the columns because it's a single question and you would not need to drag it, right? But in a case where you needed to stretch it across, just like we did for where was that? Ifs workings like this, yeah, we have to lock it, else we'll just get random values. So when I was talking earlier, I was like, yeah, we don't need to, but just so we get familiar with locking stuff, because we will need to know how to rightly lock our data. Yeah, this comes in handy. Yeah, I hope I was able to answer you.
Yes, boss.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's try one out. Let's try and see. Let's count the number of orders from sub-Saharan Africa that are vegetables and were sold online. How about that? So I want the count of the products and then I want the total profit. So I'll just write it down and I need answers. So for COUNTIFS, or rather, I'm not even going to put what you count the, well, rather, I'm not even going to say count. So classwork, yeah. One, how many orders were how many orders were, how do I speak this English? From sub-Saharan Africa and vegetables and with a priority C. I hope there's something like C there. I'm gonna wrap this. There is C, right? Yes, there is C. Okay, let me wrap this text so that. Oops. Um, second here. So the second question is what was the total profit from question one above? Okay, people, let's get digging. The time starts now. I'll give you three, I'll give you 5 minutes. Whilst 5 minutes, 5 minutes is too much. I'll give you 3 minutes. Okay, I'm open to questions, please. Does anybody have questions from anything? Any, any questions? Changes. Do we understand the questions here? Uh-uh. Mr. Chibuze, I'm sure you used to carry first position in class that you and Yinka. Classwork one. Answer is one. Okay. Mm, okay. Any other person? Okay. Question number 3. How many online orders came in from the Asia region? I am quite sure you did not think you would see questions like, oh, count if, sum if, and everything. I mean, that wouldn't be really realistic. As data analysts, you should be able to see a problem and figure out the right solution. As a matter of fact, I would want to tax your brain. There's count if, sum if, there's ifs, there is average ifs, and everything. So I'm gonna like give an average if question now. I didn't want to tell you, but then I mean since I've not talked on average ifs, I would just yeah. I have not seen answers. What was the average revenue made by the Europe region on personal care items? Okay, this is nice. And we have different answers coming in. This is so nice. I like this. So I'll give extra 3 minutes for questions to be answered. And yeah, okay. I'm going to give hints. because I'm a nice person. So how many others? This would be a count if problem. What what was the total profit for Q1 above? This would be a sum ifs problem. How many online orders came in from the Asian region? This would be a count ifs. And this would be a what was the average revenue? This would be an average ifs. Okay. Okay, believe question 4. Average revenue, nice. Okay. Oh, we have a question 2. A question 2, 93,000. Okay. Question 3, 5. Okay, so let's do it together. First one, how many orders were from Sub-Saharan Africa? So we have three criteria here: Sub-Saharan Africa, vegetables, and priority C. So count if. So it's going to be equal to count if first criteria range is the region, comma, the criteria is Sub-Saharan Africa. Have to be careful to type it exactly as it is. Sub-Saharan Africa in quotes. The next criteria was is vegetable, right? Yeah, I think so. It's vegetables. And so the criteria range is this item type, comma, vegetables. And the next criteria was the priority C. So this, comma, then C in quotes. Hit the enter button and I have 1. Okay, so we had people having 1. Okay, now, okay, let me see question 1. People that had 1. Okay, such a busy 1. Mary, you had 0. Please find out where the 0 is coming. Why 0? Okay, we have Namdi 1, Daniel 1. Oh, she did the correct thing. Awesome. Okay, so next question 2. We have what was the total profit from Q1 above? Okay, so the same criteria, right? So it's going to be a sum ifs. Sum ifs, we go back to our records. Oops. Sum range is the first thing in sum ifs. So we are trying to find the total profit, right? So sum range is the first. The next is the criteria range 1, that's the region. Please, comma, then the criteria 1 is Sub-Saharan Africa, in quotes. Okay. Next is the criteria 2. That is the vegetable, right? So the range, comma, then vegetables in quotes. Vegetables. The next is criteria 3 range. That's other priority, comma, and then in quotes, priority C. And that is all. Close my bracket. And who was right? Yeah, Benga was right. Well done. I'm proud of you. Okay, so that's second. The next is how many online orders came in from the Asian region. So we have two criteria here. We have the sales channel online, and then we have the sales channel online, and then we have the region Asia. Okay, so I'm going to do COUNTIFS. I want to know how many orders came in. Okay, COUNTIFS. The criteria range 1, we would say the region, and the criteria is Asia, right? Yes. The second criteria range is the sales channel, and the criteria is online, right? In quotes, close a bracket. There we go. 5. 5. Keep 3. Believe you are doing well. Okay. So for the third one, the fourth one, we have what was the average revenue? What is, yeah, whatever. What was average revenue made from the Europe region on personal care items? So we have two criteria here. Um, the region, Europe, and then the item type, personal care. And yeah, we want to find the average. So we call the average is, so we see here, I know I hadn't mentioned this, but one of the things I said, you look at the map and figure it out. So we want to find the average revenue, right? So the first thing here is average range. So what range do you want to average? That is the revenue, right? So average if the average range is the revenue, we go here and we go to revenue. I'll be so impressed if anybody got this. I believe I'm banking on you. Okay, the revenue, comma. Then the next is the, see, I'm using the map. I need to be sure of what I'm doing. The next is the first criteria range rather. So the criteria range 1 is Europe, right? So the criteria range 1 is of course 1A, then the criteria 1 is Europe. I put that inside double quotes. And the next is criteria range 2. That was supposed to be colon C, item type for personal products, personal care rather. So I'm just going to put personal care as a criteria 2. And that's it. Close the brackets. And there we have it. 218,000. Who got it? Nobody. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, Q for 400 and okay, okay, okay. Yeah, okay. So please repeat the sum ifs, please enjoy. Yeah, okay. So sum ifs, I'll just clear this just to repeat it. So we had what was the total profit from Q1 above, from question one above. So we know in SUMIFS we have the sum range, we have the criteria range one, criteria one, criteria range two, criteria two, and like. So the first thing is the sum range, right? So what do we want to sum? The total profits. So go to our sales records and total profits, right? Put a comma. The next thing on our what I call map is criteria range one. What was the first criteria? I'd have to go back to this sheet to check. Uh, okay, Sub-Saharan Africa vegetables and priority C. So the first criteria is the region. So criteria range one is column A, that's region, comma. The region in question is the criteria, which is sub-Saharan Africa in double quotes, and comma. The next is the criteria range two. So that's gonna be item type, a comma, and then what item are we looking at? Vegetables, right? Vegetables in double quotes, comma, and our third criteria was other priority C. So the criteria range is other priority, comma, other priority C in double quotes, C, and bracket close. Hit the enter button, and there we go. Just believe you have seen your mistake. That's good. Yes, please, Namji.
Hello, sir.
Yes, talk to me.
Please, I want to know if as we are typing like that's a personal care stuff.
Yes,
I want to
please.
know if the Excel or the Google Sheet is case sensitive. Like the for the personal,
Hmm.
it started with the package. If I change it to small letter, something like that, we it to accept it. Then I'm typing it.
So here's your answer. It's not case sensitive. So I've just
Okay.
changed it to from capital letter to small letter. It's not case sensitive, but as
Yeah.
much as possible, yeah, it's just advisable to conform to how it is in your main data set. You get the point now. Okay, yeah. So, any other questions? Do we all grasp this? Do we? I used the wrong colon. Sorry about that, sir. Yeah, you probably used. Yeah, okay, fine. Okay. So are we good on this? Any other questions? Okay, let's look at if there are no other questions, let's look at the assignments from the last class. So we had the that should be ifs workings. Yeah. So I'll just now we've done some hands on. Yeah, I am sure we can run this again. Just gonna do everything so that we'll be done with this. I will move on to the fun part. I mean, to the more fun part. It's all fun, but some are more fun than the others. So there's a question from Believe here. Do we have limits to number of criteria for if functions? Honestly, I don't think there are. I mean, you can just put as much criteria as you want to put. Just keep putting them as far as they're in your table. Yeah, that works for you. Um, so I feel I feel we should try out. There's something we've not tried out, the ifs. Ifs. Yeah, so we're going to do that right now. We're going to look at ifs. I think before we even come back to this assignment. Ms. Chibueze, please another set of classwork. I love the spirit. Okay. Yes, so ifs. Let's look at ifs. How do I discharge these burdens? Uh, okay. Now, when you're talking about ifs, like I said, anything with S, multiple criteria. Okay. Now, I would I'll take some sample data to express this. So when you're talking of ifs doesn't have to do with when you're talking of ifs. Okay. Uh, so let's try out ifs. So here I have let me let me get the regions. Get the regions here. Data, remove duplicates. Okay. These guys are really big. Okay, cool. So let's say we have these as regions. Let's take just copy this. I'll keep this here for now. We'll get to use it. Okay, so let's look at if, just for as a refresher. Now, when you're talking of if is the beginning of criteria, right? So when a when a query per se, or when an enquiry, for lack of a better word, meets, or rather, exactly, let me use an Excel test. When an Excel test meets a particular condition, a single condition, there is a value if true, it returns a value. If it doesn't meet the condition, it returns another value. That's what this means. Okay, for example, let's say if this logical test is if this, that is the region, is, oh, I'll give another example. But let's say we want to see which of these columns. I'll just maybe duplicate and make more copies of this. Just double it up. So we want to see if oh, if any parameter, if any of these regions is equal to Asia. Let's look for Asia. Maybe I'll just add another Asia here. Right. If it's Asia, it gives us a hooray, else a nah, for example. So equal the if, okay, maybe we'll use true and false so that um, passes the message across. It could be anything, that's the point. So if the logical test is if this is equal to Asia, that's the logical test. Okay, you put a comma, then the next is the value if true. That means if it is equal to Asia, what value should it return? Value it should return is a hooray. I put it in double quotes. And if it is not, the value it should return is an ow. Forgive my example. I hit the enter button and it gives me the values. So this is a single criteria for if. So what we said is if this region is Asia, give a hooray, else give an ow. So this is Australia and Oceania, it's not Asia, so ow, ow, Asia, hooray, Sub-Saharan Africa, ow, Asia, hooray, hooray, and hooray, right? So perhaps a more professional example, right? Um, let's get the total revenue of these guys. Let's, so the total revenue, if you want to get total revenue of these guys from the main sheet, what do we use for each of the region? We use the sum if function. So sum if the range is this, comma. The next thing is the criteria. The criteria is this. The next is the sum range. Where do we want to sum? Not profit, revenue. Okay. Just put currency. Now, let's say there's a target of, $15 million. So I'll just put here region targets. 15, $15 million. Okay, so we want to know the regions that met their targets. Okay, so target met. Now remember, this is the target, regional target. The target met is what we want to find. So we use, so in situations like this, you use, so if what we want to do is, if the target met, if the region met their target, yeah, their target, we're going to say yes. And if they didn't meet their target, we're going to say no, right? So let's try this out. So it's going to be if, equal to if this is greater than or equal to, yeah, so when you're mixing things like greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, you just put them side by side, right? So if this is equal to, or if this is greater than or equal to the target met, that's rather the regional target, that is u. So notice I'm going to log this F4 because I'm going to drag it down across the regions and I do not want this to change. So if U2 is greater or equal to the region target, comma, value if true, yes, and value if false, that's the next, no, bracket close, and I will hit the enter button, yes, and no. So I drag this down. So here are the conditions. So here we see that those that are less than 15 million were no, and those greater were yes. Did we get that? No, we did not get that. Okay, you know what, I'm just going to click on this formula, look at it. Right. Hope that helps. No. This is U2, the revenue from Australia and Oceania, and this is the column for revenue, right? This is the target, division target. Say everybody, I mean, you all know about KPIs, right? So KPIs are your targets. So maybe you're the regional manager of each of these regions, and then you're given a target of $15 million worth of revenue for your region. Okay. And at the end of the year, evaluations are being made to your performance. We want to see your performance. And there is a column for target met. So we want to know if you met your target. Now, what you made in revenue is going to be looked at versus what your target was. Okay. Now, if your target, the total target, is greater than, equal, or equal to. I mean, if it's equal to, it means you met your target. If it's greater than, yeah, it means you surpassed your target, right? So if your total revenue, the revenue generated is greater than or equal to U12, this is U12. This cell is U12, the target met. And remember when we talked about absolute referencing, where you lock your stuff, a cell with dollar sign, so that when you drag it down, it doesn't move, right? Using the F4 option. Now there are three logical statements. There are three parameters here. The logical test, that is this. The value if true. That means if the logical statement is true, the value if true, and if the logical statement is false, the value if false. Okay? Yeah. So that's what we did here. If this revenue, the total revenue met, is greater than or equal to the regional target, then put a yes in double quotes. Return a yes, else a no. And we're putting them in double quotes because they are text. I hit the enter button and it gives a yes. I drag it down. And there we go. We've seen the targets met. Now we would pause here for today. In our next class, after I have shown you an appropriate example for the ifs, I am going to we're going to get into pivot tables, right? And pivot tables are like some very slick way of summarizing data, and I am sure you'll probably be pissed with me or pissed at me when you figure out that there were some easier ways of doing the SUMIFS and the COUNTIFS and the likes of them. Yeah, but you find out that it was also good for you to know. So in pivot tables, just like a quick overview, we're going to touch it in full details in the next class, but just to show you. And pivot tables are like tables that summarize data. Okay, so we have this our sales records data set here, and just clicking on anywhere on your data set, you go to insert, the insert tab. The first option you see is pivot tables. If you click on it, you would see a box, a dialog box, so that tells you the range, new worksheet, and all. Just click on OK, and it opens a new worksheet with something that looks like this. Oops, sorry. Okay, so it shows you this, and you see this dialog here. If you notice here, you would see different items, all the headers on your data set. Region, country, all of them, they're all here, region, country. And we have at the bottom, we have filter, we have column, we have row, and we have values. Okay, so let's take a look at, let me look for one of the tasks we did today. So we did a count if, so we did this number of orders of items, and item types, count of orders of item types. So let's see how the pivot table will do that. So I go to item types and I drag it to the row, or you could just check the button. I drag it to the row and the list of the item types come here. And the next thing I do is that I want to see a count. There is the order ID. I drag the order ID to values and drop. And it shows me sum of order IDs. I take my cursor to where you have the order IDs, sum. I just right click anywhere on it. And there is an option that says summarize values by sum, count, average, and all. I click on count. And it gives me the counts of orders. So this is baby food 7, beverage 8. Let's see, what did we do? Baby food 7, beverage 8. Interesting. Cereals and all that. And I did all this without doing any formulas. I'll just copy this, control copy, and oh, no. We still with this, so we don't. Let's see. What if we want to see this total revenue we did per region? I take this out of the row and column. I go to my region and I drag it to the row. And then I go to total revenue and drag it to the values. And I have the total revenues. I come here and I highlight it and change it to currency. And there you go. The total revenue generated. We should have some of the total revenues we generated somewhere. Okay, region total revenue, right? So let's just take maybe Asia 21347. Asia 21347. Asia 21347. Okay, so we also did something for total profits. Let's look at it. Total profits here, I carry it and I drag it and drop. And there you have total profits. And pivot tables, the pivot table quickly gives you your values. Okay, so I take off total profits. How about we want to see total revenue made through the different sales channels, online or offline? I take sales channels and I move it to columns. And you have offline and you have online. And there goes your visuals. So pivot tables basically summarize your data, your stuff in tables, and just makes it simple for you to quickly summarize data, make sense out of it, and all. We could quickly from the grand total put the conditional formatting I told you last class, where we just color shade, and we could quickly see that Sub-Saharan Africa had the highest revenue from the green, Europe, this and all that and all that. We could sort this from the highest to the lowest. We come here and right click and sort from largest to lowest. I hope it works for me today. And voila. This helps for good visuals and sharp work. Are we trying it out? Did anybody get it? Did it work for you? So, not to worry, in our next class on Sunday, we are going to dig into pivot tables. We're going to look at pivot tables, we're going to look at pivot charts. We're going to look at, then we're going to go into dashboards. So in the next 3 classes, Um, the next three classes are going to be a build up to being having the ability to create interactive dashboards. We would have a capstone project, and then we'll call it a wrap. Any questions, please? No questions. Okay. So I think we've had some good time today. It's a good time to take a rest. And in the absence of no questions, yeah, I think we can call it a night. There are still these assignments. Now that we have a better grasp on it, please, I would like us to, I mean, just 4 people gave the assessments. And you know, these assessments are built up to the final, yeah, they all add up to the final grading and everything on performance. So, so well to do your assignment. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night rest.